Today's show is sponsored by Teleport. Are you building cloud applications with a distributed team? Then check out Teleport, an open-source, identity-aware access proxy for cloud resources. Teleport provides secure access to anything running somewhere behind NAT, SSH servers, Kubernetes clusters, internal web apps, and databases. Already trusted by industry leaders, Teleport is a great solution for organizations that need to secure their infrastructure and comply with security best practices, such as role-based access control, preventing data exfiltration, providing visibility, and ensuring compliance. Download Teleport today at goteleport.com/cloudcast. That's goteleport.com/cloudcast.
Cloudcast Media presents from the massive studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is the Cloudcast with Aaron Delp and Brian Gracely, bringing you the best of cloud computing from around the world.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome back to the Cloudcast. We are coming to you live from the massive Cloudcast studios here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Actually, small modification of that. We are coming to you from the sort of remote Cloudcast studios in North Carolina. I'm sitting, we have a small cabin up in the North Carolina mountains, and I'm actually sitting outside looking out at the mountains today. So Sunday Perspective show, trying to get a little perspective on life, trying to just sort of take in the beauty of what's going on around us. So if you hear any little birds chirping in the background or any sort of noises, that's what it is. We're actually recording this one outside. I'm going to have a little bit of fun with it. The audio quality should be good. Shouldn't be like the one we did that had a little bit of fuzz in the background, maybe from a week or two ago. Apologize for that. But today we're going to talk a little bit about this thing. A lot of times on these shows, these Sundays Perspectives, I kind of dive into something that I have some expertise in, or that I sort of lived through. We did a lot of the lessons learned shows. And today I'm going to do one that's a little bit outside of my comfort zone. And it's something I kind of been thinking about. A couple of things came together this week that really got me thinking. And it is really around security. And we've said for years and years on this show that neither one of us, neither Aaron or I, are security experts. We've both sort of dabbled around it in our careers. In some cases, we were sort of, semi-responsible for it, but maybe not completely. In other cases, it's just a part of the bigger picture of what we were trying to do. And, a couple of things kind of came together this week around security. There was an announcement about a lot of the major cloud providers, actually a lot of the major sort of technology providers got together with the U.S. government after the massive SolarWinds hack, and really were trying to, sort out what do we do next as an industry? What do we do next to try and prevent this sort of thing? And so there's some announcements that came out of that. I'll dive into it a little bit after the break about, what were these companies going to do? The largest companies in the world, supposedly the biggest experts in the world in technology and security. What were they going to do to sort of help, kind of the good of both the country, but also just, the industry as a whole? Like, what more can we do to make this a top priority? Because if we keep letting hacks happen, things become much more vulnerable. And as they become more vulnerable at a very large macro level, a country level, an economy level, geopolitical level, instability is not necessarily great for large systems, right? It can be interesting for, individuals or small groups or something, but, as a whole, that instability, especially with computer security and computer data, gets to be a little problematic, as they might say. And so I got to think about that, and, I saw some of the announcements that came out, and, so-and-so is going to spend this much money, and so-and-so is going to donate this and that. And then there was another announcement that came out around Microsoft, and some security vulnerability experts, a third-party company, had found a vulnerability at Microsoft and reported it to them. And then there was an exclusive, I believe it was from Reuters, that came out and said, here's what's going on. And the way it was explained, and again, you never know, how much the press writes an article that's maybe a little more bolsterous than it is in reality. But, when somebody makes a statement that this is the worst cloud vulnerability you can imagine, you would think, oh, this is a big deal. Now, keep in mind that, security is very much a nerd niche culture. We all sort of engage with technology, but understanding of security is a very, very niche piece of it. And it got me thinking, okay, so here's a humongous problem for one of the largest companies in the world, one of the largest divisions of that company in the world. And you would have thought, okay, if it's as catastrophic as it is, stock price is probably going to go down, right? The market's going to look at that and they're going to go, this company is going to lose the trust of their customers. It's going to, create a sort of a pall or a dark cloud over this company. The value of it going forward probably will go down. Nope. Didn't move one bit. The market gave it no reaction whatsoever. Zero or, negligible pennies, maybe up or down on the stock price. And so, those sort of things kind of got me thinking, and they got me pondering for the last few days, like, what does it even mean? What does security even mean anymore, right? And so I want to kind of dive into some thoughts around that right after the break. Today's show is sponsored by CloudZero. For software-driven companies focused on growing margins, CloudZero is the only cloud cost intelligence platform that puts engineering in control by connecting technical decisions to business results. By analyzing cloud services like AWS and Snowflake, CloudZero provides real-time cost insights that help you maximize margins. Engineering teams can answer critical questions like, who are my most expensive customers? How much does this specific feature cost our business? What's the cost impact of re-architecting this application? With cost anomaly alerts via Slack, product-specific data views, and granular engineering context that makes it easy to investigate any cost, CloudZero is your complete cloud cost intelligence platform, connecting the dots between high-level trends and individual line items. Join companies like Drift, Rapid7, and SeatGeek by visiting cloudzero.com/cloudcast to get started today. That's cloudzero.com/cloudcast. And we're back. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, we're going to dive a little bit into security and sort of this confusion I have about the industry and how the industry looks at security, how companies look at security, and what even does security mean? And again, I've been around the industry for, I'll admit it, a long time. I remember when, a firewall was security, an access control list was security. In some cases it was just locks on the door because, you needed to be able to get to that mainframe, or it was your key card, or it was whatever it was, right? We had these sort of tiers and layers of security. And over time, networks evolved and people computed in different places. And so, what was considered a perimeter before maybe became a secondary perimeter. You needed more things. You needed stuff that would, not only create perimeters, but it would actively monitor stuff. You had to be able to, if you were a Microsoft customer, you had Patch Tuesday. Every single Tuesday, you just assumed something bad had happened and you're going to get some patches and you're going to actively have to do stuff. And security is a very large industry. There are a lot of very large companies that sell security. There are, tons and tons of bits of security, software that does security. And so, it's not an area that I've necessarily ever really focused on. I think partially because I don't necessarily grasp all the things that you have to do. I don't necessarily have a mindset to think like a hacker, which you sort of need to be a very good security professional, like think about ways of breaking systems as opposed to building systems. But as I mentioned at the top of the hour, I've lived through a lot of assessments of security, right? I've lived through a lot of working with companies who said, hey, we're going to buy some new things. We're going to build some new things. We're going to evaluate some new things. And security is always a huge, huge, huge part of that evaluation process, right? How many features does your product have? How does it, update software? How do you manage lifecycle? How do we protect against stuff? How do we remediate against things? Does it have this security certification? Does it have this auditability? All those sort of things, right? It's a ginormous part of the process, right? So there's a part of me, having lived in this industry for a long time, that believes that security is important, that believes that companies take security seriously, right? Like they spend a lot of time on the front end trying to get security right, trying to know what's going on. And, and then things like the Cloud Security 2021, State of Cloud Security 2021 report comes out. And some of the highlights that come out of that are things like this. 36% of companies suffered a serious cloud data leak or breach in the last 12 months. 36%. That means if you're sitting in a room and you look to your left and you look to your right, if neither one of those companies got breached, you got breached, right? Better than 1 in 3 companies got breached. That's a lot. That's not a little bit. That's a lot, right? Lost, serious data leak or breach. 8 out of 10 people surveyed in this security study are worried that they're vulnerable to a major misconfiguration breach. 8 out of 10 are worried that they're vulnerable, right? They know they have a problem. And 64% think the problem will either get worse or stay the same. Those aren't encouraging numbers, right? And so I sort of have this dilemma of what's going on? How, as an industry, are we spending so much time up front trying to sort out security, trying to make sure we have all the right features, trying to make sure we have the right architectures and that we're checking all the boxes. And yet, in 2021, 1 in 3 have already been hacked. 80% are, believe they're vulnerable, right? 80% think they're vulnerable. They just either haven't been hacked or don't know they've been hacked. And 64% think it's going to get worse. I don't get it. I guess I don't understand. I understand we have this ongoing dilemma between quote unquote making something secure and making something usable. But it's 2021. We should be better at this by now, right? Is it just that we've always treated security as its own thing, and so therefore it doesn't have to think about usability? It can just sort of say yes or no. We have hacks. We looked at the SolarWinds hack. We've looked at other hacks in the past in which, they go after software that's a little older, but they go after vulnerabilities that have been open, like the struts one that was out there for so long. I mean, years and years. The fixes for this code was out there, right? And now people are all excited about IoT. They're all excited about millions and billions of devices being out there. And we can't figure out security when we have hundreds and hundreds of devices. And I don't know. I'm trying to wrap my head around how to think about this, right? And the Microsoft thing, the Microsoft Azure thing probably has me thinking the most, because in the past, we used to think about, okay, well, if we get hacked or if we're down, right? We think about this. We think about downtime in terms of if I'm down, I can measure on a per hour basis how much I'm down. And you see people willing to invest because they can think about being down, right? So, it's a stock exchange. If it's down for a minute, it's this much in transactions. If it's, retail and it's down for an hour, it's this much in transactions. And we can do that. And I feel like maybe we sort of used to think about things that way in security, but with security, we always tend to think about things as like breaches, what got stolen. And maybe we don't think about them that much anymore because we have things like, insurance. And I don't have to worry about it because I can pawn off the problem on the insurance company. I can pawn it off on, telling all my customers, well, we lost your credit card data again. We're the 50th company this year to lose your credit card data. Here's a $9 subscription per month to whatever the credit agency is, so that if something comes along, they'll help you resolve this. And I don't know, maybe that's where we are. It's so bizarre to me that these massive hacks happen, and people come out of the woodwork, and they're all security experts on Twitter all of a sudden, but there doesn't seem to be any massive ramification anymore for, not being good at security, not implementing security, not keeping it updated, right? We do all these other things for other parts of what we do, right? We have entire industries talking about DevOps and CI/CD and all these other things, but it feels like, maybe we're back to the old saying of either, you spend as much, your company spends as much money on security as they do, coffee in the break room, which is probably minuscule, although who knows these days, everybody's got really expensive coffee. But it just doesn't feel like there's ever any punishment for leaking 100 million credit card, data, people's names, social security numbers, balances, all sorts. I mean, it just doesn't feel like the market punishes anybody for it. There doesn't feel like there's any market ramifications for not being good at security. And so, I keep coming back to, we have features, and people call things security, but the best password management tool in the world is forgot password, right? It's not one password. It's not any of those things. It's just forgot password. Send me a new one. And I don't know. This is one of those areas where I usually, roll through the Sunday's perspective. I get to the end. I feel like I put together something that was useful. I was able to draw on experience that I had, draw on the context of what happened, maybe the good decisions, the bad decisions. I'm at my wit's end. I'm confused beyond many, many things around this security thing. I just don't understand how we can literally have this thing where, I understand it. I understand how people were able to, find a vulnerability, but the market just doesn't seem to punish it. We don't seem to put any value on security. And it's the weirdest thing because it's such a critically important thing. And maybe it's just, there are so many days that are so good with security that people don't get in that, we pay attention to the ones that are bad. But, the ones that are bad doesn't seem to be, and I'm not looking for punishment like, punish the people. I'm like, the market doesn't, punish companies for being poor at security. And I mean, maybe that's just the way it is. Maybe they've figured out, hey, it costs far less to invest in being good at security than it does to, have a good PR team and some insurance around it. And maybe that's just the way security needs to be looked at. I don't know. It just feels very different than everything I was always taught coming up, the fundamentals of computer science and how to build environments and so on and so forth. So I don't know. I'm going to make it short today because, again, I'm sort of sitting here overlooking the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's a beautiful day. The weather's cool, and I'm able to ponder a few things. But the security thing has kind of got me scratching my head. I would love to get any feedback from people as to, what is going on with security? What's going on with the security industry? What's going on with the perception of, the value of security or lack of value of security? Give me some insights. We've got a great community out there. I would love to know the big things that I'm missing because things just don't add up for me. And usually they add up in certain ways. I always understand there's flaws in the system and, problems in certain systems, but this one just doesn't make any sense to me. So give me some feedback if you get a chance. If you'd like to, tell me how dumb I am. I'm more than willing to take that, especially in the security domain that I don't totally understand, but let us know. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. It's kind of a short one today. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for telling a friend about the show. Thanks for giving us feedback, especially the 5 stars and the reviews that you give us on iTunes and all the other places that you get your podcasts. We love to see the feedback. If you ever just want to give us some feedback or ask a question or suggest a topic for a Wednesday show or a Sunday show, shoot us an email to show@thecloudcast.net. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up, and I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to The Cloudcast. Please visit thecloudcast.net to find more shows, show notes, videos, and everything social media.